I think the regulatory bull run will be the biggest bull run we see in crypto. There is so much big money waiting on the sidelines for a place to go. And once they get that, they are going to flood the market. So I think that you will see this could potentially be the biggest move up in crypto we have seen yet.
You heard it right. Gareth Soloway, the president and chief market strategist of InTheMoneyStocks.com and VerifiedInvestingCrypto.com, is saying the biggest bull run we ever had in crypto is about to happen. This is a bold Bitcoin price prediction, but there's a reason why Gareth is calling this move, and it's hard to deny it, so pay close attention until the end.
So I'm kind of in that same camp where you got this really pretty bull flag pattern. I can pop up my chart here and we can take a look. But basically what we have here is this bull flag formation, and it's coming now into what I would consider to be a mature pattern, right? So you have immature patterns where there's probabilities are kind of lukewarm, maybe just slightly better than 50-50, and then mature patterns where you get multiple sideways consolidation candles here, and then that creates that mature pattern, highest probability to the upside. So for me, at least looking at this, I'm definitely in the camp that we should see some sort of move up. The question is how much, right? So just looking at the chart here, the problem that arises if we do start to move up, we have to fight our way back through that June low, which is around 17,600. If we get through that, we have another multi-low pivot around 18.5, 18.6, and then we struggle right around this 19 to 20,000 range. So I do think I agree with you. I think there's some upside here in the near term. I do expect some. But the question again is how much upside, and then I do unfortunately still see some more downside after that. I'm still in the camp of just under 10K. What was interesting is once we had FTX come out, I started to look at the similarities of the history of Lehman Brothers, right? And Lehman Brothers collapsed during 2008's crisis in the stock market. And what was so fascinating about it is you really have a lot of the same synergies going on there. You know, you look at an exchange is essentially the bank of crypto, right? It's where people store their money. And we had Lehman Brothers collapse. And what's interesting about that is when Lehman Brothers collapsed, there was massive fear and panic. A lot of big people lost money. A lot of small individuals, investors lost money. And we saw the stock market still sell off for another 5 to 6 months. So what I did was I kind of said, okay, if this FTX event was our Lehman Brothers moment, potentially from that point, we have about 5 to 6 months of downside left, or at least, you know, it can have some bounces to it, but ultimately we'll bottom out in 5 to 6 months. So for me, at least, I'm going with, you know, a low likely in Bitcoin around May of 2023. I think that if you look at the Lehman Brothers collapse, the S&P dropped another 40 to 45%, which puts us right at that 9 to 10,000 marker. So that's kind of where I'm leaning right now. I think that, again, we're going to get some regulation out there that probably comes in the next 3 to 6 months as well. And it all could kind of come together to create this nice bottom in Bitcoin for the second half of the year.
So Gareth says a move is about to happen with this bull flag formation he sees in the charts, and he also goes through where and when he sees the bottom happening. But there's a full explanation of why all of this is happening, and even how the biggest bull run ever in crypto is happening next.
So one of the reasons why I think we're getting closer to the end of this bear market is that you are seeing diminishing negativity with bigger negative headlines. And so one of the things I love to show you guys is here was your Terra Luna collapse, right? Where you dropped about 45% in Bitcoin from 31.5 down to about the 17,000 level, right? And Terra Luna was nasty, there's no doubt about it, but I think we can all agree that this drop on FTX was probably a bigger earthquake than Terra Luna for the entire ecosystem, but the Bitcoin only dropped about 25%. And so what that shows, it's kind of one of those things where if it was a technical chart, and it is, I would say that's a positive divergence, right? You're getting worse news, but a smaller move to the downside. So to me, it still means we still got to wash things out. We still got to go a little bit lower, but we're getting there. We're kind of in that final downside move, you know, like 5, 6 months out, where finally we'll be able to say, okay, finally we can look to hodl some where we hold it for the longer term, and we probably are getting near the lows. I think the regulatory bull run will be the biggest bull run we see in crypto. And the reason I say that is because you're going to finally have a framework where institutional money is going to feel comfortable getting into crypto. And mainly I'm talking Bitcoin, Ethereum. I mean, there may be other coins that kind of emerge, but let's be fair, the institutions are going to trust the big ones first. It's kind of like, do you buy Apple and Microsoft, or do you buy a penny stock as an institution? And they're going to buy Apple and Microsoft. So I think we have to realize that. But the beauty of it is there is so much big money waiting on the sidelines for a place to go. And once they get that, they are going to flood the market. So I think that you will see this could potentially be the biggest move up in crypto we have seen yet in this next bull run. The only thing I would caution is it's not going to be like we're going to make a bottom in 2023 and then by the end of 2023 be at all-time highs. I don't think it happens that quickly. So we have to be ready to just be patient. But I do think that those gains come.
And the reason behind all of this, weirdly enough, Gareth Soloway says it has to do with the stock market and how history repeats itself.
I'm in the camp that, and I've gone on record saying that I think the stock market will not make new all-time highs for at least 10 to 15 years. And I mean, that to most investors, that's pretty shocking. Now, if you were in the .com collapse, the NASDAQ, it took 15 years for the NASDAQ to make a new all-time high. The NASDAQ topped out in 2000. It didn't break those highs till 2015. In addition, if you go back to the 1930s, the Great Depression, I think it took till 1950s from the high in 29 and the crash to the 1950s to make a new high. So to me, there's a lot of these similarities. In fact, one of my recent kind of extrapolations was looking at the similarities in the stock market of current time to the similarities going back to the Great Depression. And in fact, let me just show you guys. And again, this is breaking away a little bit from crypto, but the reason why it's so important is that we in crypto, you have to understand that history repeats or at least rhymes. So if you can learn something from anything else in history, you can generally figure it out going into the future with a different market. So what I like to show here is that look at this crazy pattern, right? So this is the .com pop. Here's the .com collapse. Here's the financial crisis run up where the real estate market went into a bubble. Here's the collapse. And then this is ever since then, right? So we had this huge move up, which again, amazing how the .com bubble is so small considering what we've seen, which is scary, right? I mean, like this run is insane. And then, so this is the S&P 500 from 95 to basically 2022. And what I want to show you guys now is look at this. Right? So essentially, look at the pattern here, and then look at this run up here. And it's almost identical to what we are currently or what we have seen. And the reason why that's a little scary for me, number one, is it does probably mean that we're going to be in a bigger bear market, at least for stocks, for many, many years to come. Now, I think it's going to be a positive for crypto because I think that investors, once we get regulation in crypto, will then look and say, okay, well, the stock market's not doing it for us, so let's go into crypto. Let's look at Bitcoin. Let's look at Ethereum. But again, this is a very scary sort of scenario because in the 1930s, what we had? We had the Great Depression. You had 25% unemployment. And again, the market literally had a crash. I mean, it was a full-out crash. We went from 400 on the Dow all the way down to 40, a 90% drop. So now extrapolate that to the U.S. stock market. If we dropped 90%, it would be insane. I mean, it would be absolutely insane. And just to throw this out, a lot of people say, okay, well, the chart matches. So that's one thing. But what was going on economically? And this is even more fascinating, right? And again, for students of history, I think this is the best stuff, is that in the 19-teens, like 1915, 1920, 1920s, you had the invention and the adoption of the car, and you had electricity. You could go shopping, you could go places. With the car, you could actually drive to stores. And so what it created was the roaring 20s where the consumer was out spending money. Well, what do we know about the consumer over the past 20 years? The consumer got introduced to the internet. And what do we do on the internet? I mean, how many of us, basically go out and spend money on Amazon every single day? I know my wife does, right? So the bottom line is it created this consumer spending craze, just like the 1920s, with this invention of the internet and this kind of like this coming into our own. And very, very similar. I know it's a little off topic, but it also relates to what we're going through right now.
So, this is a bold Bitcoin price prediction and will take time. But what's the prediction in 2023 if we eventually reach the bottom and regulation in crypto starts?
In 2023, you will start to see, and the key is, again, it's so weird because regulation was like the taboo that everyone was so against, but believe it or not, regulation will create the ability for Bitcoin and maybe Ethereum and maybe other coins to actually start to shift over and go the opposite of the stock market. So what I think you're going to see is, once investors and big institutions trust crypto enough that they're not going to get screwed, they're not going to lose their money to some scam out there, they will start saying, okay, the US economy is going into a recession. The Fed cannot print us out of that recession because inflation is going to remain elevated. So what does that mean? It means the economy is going to get worse and worse. It means earnings for stocks are going to get worse and worse. The stock market is going to head down. Crypto is your shining light, right? Crypto, where you have Bitcoin, which is the digital gold, Ethereum, where there will be continued kind of development on that network. That's going to be the play where money is going to say, okay, I can't make money in stocks. And remember, institutions generally always want to be invested. So if they're not in stocks, or they're getting hurt in stocks, they're going to look for other places to go. So I actually think that you will start to see that emerge in 2023. It may not be huge. Like, there's still going to be a little bit of this kind of, oh, the stock market dropped 5%, crypto's still going to drop. But over time, from 2023, 2024, 2025, you will then start to see it become a safety asset when the stock market does poorly. So I think that's the beauty of it. I actually expect new all-time highs within 5 years on Bitcoin, versus I don't think we see it for 10 to 15 on the stock market.
Crazy right. With all this gold information available, what will be your next move? Let us know in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe so you get more of these every day. Thanks.